So you've just had the big meeting in your work office environment. But then you have the meeting after the meeting where some of the real business takes place. We'll talk about the meeting after the meeting. So I was just recently reading the book Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni. And if you haven't started reading the Patrick Lencioni series, I highly recommend that. I've read 2, working on number 3 right now. And so as I was reading that, I started thinking about something that you see many times in a work environment, and that's the meeting after the meeting. And so you go to your big staff meeting and you have the usual setup and the usual agenda and the usual people that are talking and the usual decisions that are made and the usual processes that are adhered to. And then you come back from the meeting and sometimes you feel deflated and sometimes you feel frustrated, sometimes you feel marginalized, sometimes you feel silenced, and you go back to your individual office or your cubicle or wherever you work, and then a smaller group sometimes gets together and you have the meeting after the meeting. And sometimes you should distinguish, because there are times when the meeting after the meeting happens that it could be just a venting session. And that's not necessarily inherently a bad thing. But then there is also the meeting after the meeting where you get together and you start to complain about people that were in the meeting that made the meeting not what you hoped it would be or not what you thought it could be. And you start to maybe attack people that were in the meeting when you felt like you couldn't do it in the actual big meeting. And so you wait till the meeting after the meeting to get those things off your chest and to be able to decompress, so to speak, by talking about things that are going on that you really feel but you didn't want to say in that meeting, and you can say it in a more intimate, privater meeting that is an opportunity for you to get that off your chest. But be careful with this kind of meeting, because it can really lead to a divisive atmosphere, and it can also really hurt your ability to step forward and say the things that need to be said. And one of the things that we really fear is conflict, and that's one of the things that I've read in some of the Patrick Lencioni books, is that we are afraid to conflict. We are afraid to offer differing opinions because we just don't want to deal with it. And so it's important that you don't let the meeting after the meeting deter you from having the tough conversations that you need to have in your work environment.